This month?
Yeah, because they delayed school. I know school doesn't start now until March 2nd.
Oh, okay.
Here, you can go now. It's online.
Hi, I'm here in Taipei. Now, this is not, as you might say, what do you call that? Fake news. I'm only here in Taipei. They didn't just like scan my face and put it here. Okay, so anyway, I want to talk to you guys. This is a little secret, all right? So Rabbi Shlomo knows quite a bit. By the way, why do we call him Rabbi Shlomo? Why not Rabbi Shlomo? Rabbi Shlomi? I always call him Rabbi out of respect, but some people just call him Shlomi. You can call him Shlomo if you want, but or Rabbi Tabi. But anyway, the reason I digress. So I asked Rabbi Shlomi. I said, the Alter Rebbe. Do you know his real name? It's not Alta. It's not Rebbe. It's really. I bet him $100 he didn't know. Now he's going to go look it up. But it's actually Shner Zalman. Shner Zalman. I'll test you later. Shner Zalman is the name of the Alter Rebbe. But Rabbi Shlomi didn't know. So I told him I'll give him $100 to look it up. Or I'll tell you 2 bottles of gefilte fish. And he hates gefilte fish. Why do Sephardics hate gefilte fish? I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. I don't like gefilte fish. Horseradish, a little red horseradish, a little white horseradish. He can't take it no matter what. I also told him I'm not donating any more money unless he eats a whole bottle of gefilte fish and comes to San Diego and does it in front of me. By the way, San Diego is very beautiful. Welcome, everybody. We have a rabbi there, too. His name is Rabbi Azagui, but he's not online right now. Anyway, I digress again. So, I'm not wearing my mask. Oh, wait a second. I have a mask. Oh, here it is. I should be wearing my mask. Okay, let me wear my mask. Okay. Everybody here in Taiwan is wearing a mask. For what reason? I have no idea. Everybody's following each other, or freaking out, or waiting in line to buy a mask. You don't need a mask. I'm just wearing it because I wanted you guys to see me wear a mask. Now I'm taking it off. Okay. So, let me tell you who's here. I'm here. Just me all by myself. There's no one else here. Oh, wait a second. Jerry's here. And, Rabbi Shneer's here from Shenzhen. Who else is here? Ruben's here. I knew that. Ruben, I was messing with you, Ruben. No disrespect. I'm not messing with you. I like to mess with you, Ruben. Okay. Anyway, I was in Antarctica for the wintertime, and I lit candles in Antarctica, and to bring the light of Chabad to Antarctica, so I lit candles. But the problem is it's sunlight all the time, which makes a little problem. So I went at 10 o'clock, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. Antarctica has a lot of penguins, a lot of seals, a lot of fun. I recommend it to everybody. Let's see, it's 7 o'clock, and Shlomi's upstairs, so I'm going to do the talk today. So talk talks about what is the most difficult and arduous of all the what do you call it, the planks. The most difficult plank was, what was the most difficult plank? The Egyptians. The Egyptians. What was the most difficult plank? What was the most difficult plank? I told you that the hold on, Shlomi's coming in a second. You want to say okay, when the minion shows up, Joseph, when the minion shows up, we'll do a prayer and then we continue the class. This is after that. We'll have to tell you. Beautiful. Yeah, we'll tell you. Who wrote that? Hashem. Don't you think Rabbi Shlomo is very handsome? We're not. He's very handsome, don't you? Okay, have a seat.
What, you're telling me to sit?
No.
Sit, Bavakasha, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Can you say sit, Bavakasha?
Sit.
Bavakasha.
Nice. Yeah, the proper response to Richard was, what are cookies?
There's soup, there's no cookies. Okay. So here's the situation. Today we're going to speak about do not covet. Joseph, until the minion shows up, and then we'll let you go. But don't covet in the meantime.
He's not asleep.
Hang on. So, we want to discuss Shakon Yavido.
We want to discuss a little bit of why, on one hand, it's very difficult not to covet. On the other hand, it is very important because it is the key to many other things. And of course, how to do it practically.
How to cover practically?
I'm closing the door.
How to cover practically? How to cover practically?
Yeah. Not how to covet, how not to covet.
That's
That's
the cover.
לחמוד. לא תחמוד, לחמוד.
לא תחמוד אשת רעב.
Yeah, not Mahmoud. Mahmoud is Arab. He said Mahmoud. Okay, so this couple was invited to inauguration of a new house of their neighbors, and you know what it is when they. Oh, my wife says we can't hear anything.
You know what to all that and no one can hear me?
No, she says you don't hear me clearly.
Wait a second.
I can't hear you clearly. That's what she said.
He did that on purpose.
No, no.
You guys are with us.
Next time you'll be perfect. This is like.
Ruben, you did that on purpose.
I'm sorry.
I got a whole, I practiced.
No, I can hear, but not clearly.
Go ahead. You did. Maybe some next time.
Okay, so so they come out of the house and everybody's out. Did you see the living room? Did you see the bedroom? Did you see, right? Everybody's thinking about the other person. And this is something that many people are obsessed with. In fact, everyone is obsessed with one way or another, looking at the other person and making comparisons. It's something almost inevitable. Everyone sins. Everyone has that. And the problem is that it affects our own self-esteem. If it was just to compare ourselves to others and then let it go, that was one thing. But the problem is most people are affected by what they see with the other people. What? You're not affected.
With advertisement, as brainwashing it is, we're nothing without the latest iPhone, even if the latest one before that was 6 months earlier. We're nothing without it. We have to have it.
Happy owning an iPhone 5. Probably 4 years old or 5 years
the WhatsApp thing in there, so it's not, you can't hear it very well.
Well, I'll put this thing here.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I didn't do anything. I didn't do
No
anything.
one can understand me. I didn't have a great.
She said you can't hear you well. That's what she said. She didn't say you can't hear you.
The visual was excellent.
I'll check later. Okay. I'll connect these earphones.
I'll do that. I'll do this on the wrap up.
Go ask you my. No, I didn't mean it to be a warm up. I just listen. I didn't know you can't hear so well. That's what I didn't know. I'm sorry. Oh, this Richard! I can't believe this. Heavens forbid, never ever. Stay. So, modern psychology says that people have this need, this necessity to compare themselves to others, and this is how we always check on ourselves. We're always checking how the others are doing, and then we put ourselves somewhere in the graph in between what we want to be and what the others are appearing to be. And the more we get exposed to the other person's success, most people become, the more they realize how successful the other person, they feel that they're not successful. Although in life, everyone can be successful and still no? This is good, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I had no idea. You do? So you stay? So you stay? I love you too.
I see a problem of globalization with that. We get exposed to levels of excellence at the global scale that we want.
Correct. And like Rick was saying, the advertisements are trying to draw perfect life with a beautiful wife and a great husband, and he's always treating her nicely, and she's always happy, and the kids are all nicely dressed in a beautiful house with, of course, with furniture from Denmark, from Sweden. Where'd you get furniture from Denmark? But it's not like that. There's a sharp saying in Hebrew. We say in Hebrew, "Ayofi shel acher mechaer oti." The other person's beauty makes me ugly. It's it's a sharp saying. Hebrew has a lot of sharp sayings, by the way. Israelis are very rough, and yeah, right. So what happens is people take it to extreme, and then they feel everything they've achieved so far is nothing because, like Rick said, the neighbor has a better phone, better car, better this, better that. So everything I worked really hard to get, all of a sudden it's like a balloon that's popped, and then you don't know what to do with yourself. And this is what Torah is telling us, right? This is how about what we're saying, trying to prove our self-esteem over others. And Torah tells us that in fact the solution to that story, to that issue, is not to covet. And if you look at where it's situated in the Ten Commandments, you see the Ten Commandments are broken into two. There's two tablets, although Richard says there are three tablets, but one never made it. But that's just Richard's version. That's just Richard's version. I never heard that before. So anyway, the two tablets, one has the laws between man and God, and the other is the laws between man and other man, right? Ben Adam lamakom, Ben Adam lechavaro. Now, if you look at the order, the things are located. I need to put a picture of it. I should have. Anyway, the order of it, it starts with thought, then moves to speech, and then action. Okay? So here, first the thought is believing in God. That's a matter of thought. Then speech, where we shouldn't utter God's name in vain, right? That's something of speech. And action, of course, are not to worship idols and to remember the day of Shabbat and to honor our parents, which is also included in the between man and God. Why? Because parents are partners. When we bring to the world a child, we partner with God. So honoring our parents really means we're honoring the three partners, right? The father, the mother, and God Almighty. The father and the mother are in charge of bringing to the world the body of the child, and of course God is there to give a child soul. Now if you look at the second tablet, it's exactly the other way around. We had first the thought, then the speech, then the action. But on the other hand, it's the other side, it's exactly the opposite. First the action, right? You should not kill, you should not steal, you should not commit adultery. And then comes the speech, false testimony, lo ta'aneh v'reacha et shaker. We shouldn't give false testimony. And the last one, which concludes the whole 10, lo tachmod, thou shalt not covet. That's the last one in the 10 Commandments. Now, it appears to be the last one, usually, or the last one is the least significant, just like when you count, first you count the things you like the most, and then whatever stays in the end. But the last, not only is it not the least significant, in fact, according to many opinions, it is the most significant. And here's what Sforno tells us. By performing the first 5 commandments, one renders honor to Hashem, as a result of which the one rendering this honor to Hashem will himself become part of God's eternal life. Doing this involves knowing that God created the universe out of nothing, no physical substance. It also involves accepting God as the exclusive divinity in the universe, and therefore not worshipping anyone else or anything else. It also involves not only not rebelling against Him, indeed, but not contemplating rebellion even in one's thought or speech. It involves actively honoring Him. After all, He is our Father, our Maker. Are we not commanded to even honor our mortal parents? How much more so are we advised and commanded to honor God? But here's what he's saying about the 10th. So the 10th commandment is Lo tachmod, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, his male or female slave, or his ox or donkey, or anything that is in your neighbor's, or that it belongs to your neighbor. Kada Kemach from Rabbeinu Bechaye says the Torah had set this commandment as the last one, since it weighs against all the other 9. If a person does not take caution with coveting, this might lead them to transgressing the other 10. Okay, the other 9. What?
Now the donkey and the ox would be the
Right, car, and maybe a few other assets that we possess. You have a donkey? What? Maybe, I don't know, maybe I heard there's some people upstairs. If you want to bring them down, there's 2 people upstairs. So okay. Check if there's 10. How many are we here? 8.
The plan of the wife part, is
Yeah.
that a literal thing, or is that when you think it's literal? Like, you have to take you someone's wife?
Well, you could, coveting is the catalyst. It could lead to a person could cause a conflict between a husband and wife.
Not talking about him doing himself because the is an
They're coming?
sin, and that would be redundancy. Okay, Torah is not redundant.
Right, Torah is not redundant. We have, yeah?
They're coming down. We got three coming down, and then that makes them.
Okay, so then we could do the service, okay? Oh, yeah, okay, okay. So I'll bring my hat and jacket. Okay, it's page 118. 118. On page 118. לעד יתגדל ויתקדש וירבה. והלוואי יברח שרותינו ויבליט כוחותינו וישמח כוחותינו ויראה ושתיתנו. וחייבות ובימיכות וחייבות ישראל והגנה ובזמן קריב יבוא אמן.
אמן.
page 133. יתגדל ויתקדש וירבה. אבל יברך שרותינו ויבליט כוחותינו וישמח כוחותינו ויראה ושתיתנו. וחייבות ובימיכות וחייבות ישראל והגנה ובזמן קריב יבוא אמן.
How we know they're really not chef?
What?
Just to let you know,
Yeah.
you ordered chicken about 2 years ago. If that chicken arrived this week, forget about it.
Uh-huh. Right.
We would have no chicken, and also probably go to waste, that would be thrown away.
Right.
So there's not chef. You have chicken before this virus, and this virus is not going to be alive. Now bird flu now. You know, because it's a problem. Everyone's got problems.
So,
We have
Okay.
chicken now.
okay, let's continue our
Our
study.
timing is very good.
It's all about the time, huh, Richard?
I'm going to tell you something. It's all about timing.
Okay, I agree.
Timing.
I got good timing. Listen, it's never a good time, Yoram. I know it's not simple. How old was your brother? 78. Yeah. Well. Anyways,
Very sorry for your loss.
yeah, very sorry for your loss. So we said the tenth commandment is the do not covet, and apparently it is situated the 10th because it outweighs all the others. And that's what we were trying to say, that when this is like a slippery slope. If we start with coveting, then it can end. It has some negative effect. I'm not wonder if we should extend or not.
Would you argue that this commandment includes man himself?
It has reflections on others. You're right. The actual, it's a matter of thought between a person, and it has implications that are relevant to the other. But probably, like the practicality of it is yes, between a man and himself. Yes.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Okay, the question's like this. Did you ever notice that usually between families, there's more covetous behavior than strangers?
Absolutely.
So is there something about in the Talmud talks about that? Because it can be very dangerous. In fact, in my family, I'm sorry to interrupt everybody, in my family, coveting was the reason for destruction of our family. The destruction of our family was due to coveting.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about that?
I think that it's a typical, unfortunately, it's a typical Jewish thing. Yeah. And there's a family in Israel. He's this guy was like a macher, but he wasn't rich at all. But he was a macher. He was running around, and when he passed away, he had a few kids, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 kids. And then they were sitting in synagogue after he passed away, and they were all sitting with each other and kind of being together and having this brotherly love and brotherhood. So the rabbi, the community said, "I could see your father died broke. If you would leave money, it wouldn't be as nice as it is, right? It's always about yeah, that's
One more thing too. A long time ago, the Jews weren't so prosperous.
correct.
So which make non-prosperity actually is better to family than prosperity.
Well, it's a trial of God. It's a test. Some people are tested to be poor, and some people are tested to be rich. Of course, the poor people always tell God, I don't like this test. Why don't you test me being rich, and see how that goes.
Well, the government impose taxes so that everybody can benefit of that.
Are you talking about a socialist government? Not necessarily. So here lies a question. We say do not covet. How could we control it? Apparently, it's a part of our DNA. You look around, you see what other people have without even noticing. It's not something that you work towards. It's just a thought that goes through your mind. That thought itself is a problem. How could we control that? How could we control ourselves? And here's what the Ibn Ezra asks. You shall not covet. Many people have wondered about this commandment. How is it that a man not covet in his heart that which is beautiful and all that which appears pleasant in his eyes? How could you really make sure you never covet? Sefer HaChinuch also asks, why should the Torah instruct us something it is nearly impossible to fulfill? Not coveting at all is nearly impossible to fulfill. So what does the Torah want from us? So in fact, we could once say that Torah does not tell us not to be envy or not to be jealous. Okay, maybe to be envy and to be jealous is a different part, but the covet is a matter of emotions in our heart. And what the Torah meant to say, according to what we said earlier, the 10th one against all the other 9, is only coveting that relates to practice. Or for instance, if somebody just has this idea that if, everybody's like, if I had this family, if I had this parent, if I grew up with there, if only I spoke Chinese, if only I got this upbringing, if only I had the Jewish education, if only, right? These are thoughts that perhaps touch upon coveting, but they're not actually sins. It is only the coveting that leads a person to action, right? Which we soon see what it means. Maimonides brings some practical examples about it.
It's talking about maybe the fact that normally the Din doesn't care about these things.
Correct. And Beit Din normally, this is a very Christian thing, by the way, to say that you are judged by your thoughts. In Jewish practice, it's all about the actions. If somebody thinks about someone really nasty, but they never implement, they never do anything about it, they're not sinning, so to speak, right? They're not, or is in Christian theology, this whole idea of sinner versus saint and everything, and you shouldn't have any, your mind should be clear, and so on and so forth. So this is not a sin per se, right? But this is something that might be a catalyst or could lead a person to sin and to transgress. And when that happens, then we have the sin, and then a person comes in account also for the coveting. If the coveting never comes into action, then he's not judged for it because nothing had materialized.
Okay, so I covet that you're able to do English, Hebrew. I really covet. So I work harder to learn. So that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
You've actually inspired me to work harder for it.
That's what we're talking, inspiring.
But the second thing I want to ask you is,
Yeah.
The second question I ask you is this. So when you go to the keynotes, you always have the starting pants. Oh, I'm in Val Harbor, I'm a $20 million synagogue, and people come in, they're Rolls Royce, da, 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 da. You ever feel a little do, but you feel like, hey,
Yeah,
wait a
well,
second.
of course I do. I mean, it's not. It's a question. I'll soon show you what it means. Second thought.
So
Remind me.
you're supposed to photograph?
Second thought rule. No, the second thought rule. I'll show you what the second thought rule.
About showing off.
Showing off,
One side you have
The Rolex.
right?
on the other side you have showing off.
Well, there isn't a prohibition against showing off.
But
There's
showing
no.
off is basically teasing to work coveting.
Well, you could address that as something. It's like it makes people covet. Like if, for instance, if a woman is walking not modestly dressed, then people would look at her, and that would be a sin. And of course, you could say that this woman is liable for this. Why would you make people follow you? Why would you dress in a provocative way? But in this case, so obviously we could see the reflection very clearly, right? Non-modest clothing leads to people looking at improper images,
But also
and
why do people build a synagogue when he said about $20 million? Because they would also build a synagogue of $200,000.
Yeah, everybody talks about that too. Everybody talks about Pearl Harbor. And also, Rabbi, I want to say something.
yeah.
Rabbi Zlavli told me, Rabbi Zlavli, Rabbi, he said actually, the Rebbe said Hashem wants you, if you have money, to splurge, to buy your wife a Rolls Royce, so you can afford it, to enjoy life. Is there something that you have?
It is kind of the relationship between people and money is very complex.
Yes.
And the question is, you either have the money in your pocket or the money has you in his pocket. The question is who's leading. If you feel, and that is absolutely correct, if you feel you could spoil your wife and your kids and your family, you could afford having a nice house. People think, I have a friend from Hong Kong, he's a rich guy. His name is Rafi, very nice guy. He's rich, he's okay. Aaroni, not like Rafi Aaroni. Yoham Aaroni, Rafi Aaroni. Rafi grew up in a house with I think 6 or 7 siblings with a one bedroom apartment in Jerusalem of 1940s. Okay, so no, like you said, no money, nothing. The father left, the mother was there for the kids, and Rafi had a dream to be rich. He said all his childhood, everyone has a dream, to be rich. But Rafi made it big time. He became a jeweler, he became a diamond dealer. He lives in Hong Kong. He sells diamonds in China. I don't know what else he does, but he has a lot of money. I mean, he's okay. I don't know. He's not super gazillionaire, perhaps. So Rafi said when he finally made off with some money, so he said, okay, I'm going to buy myself a big house. Okay, how many bedrooms do you need? Okay, you need a bedroom for yourself. Maybe you have a bunch of kids for their bedroom. And then what? What are you going to do with 12 bedrooms? What are you going to do with 15 bedrooms? Or how big of a house? One day you'll sleep in the kitchen. One day you'll sleep in the living room. One day, what's the story? Okay, you can, people who experience hunger when they are children, okay? Unfortunately, a lot of people experience hunger. A lot of people don't have to afford to give their kids. And then finally they make it in life. Maybe they're not rich, but how many meals could you eat? Could you eat more than 3 meals a day? 4 meals a day? You start snacking, you'll become fat, you'll have cholesterol, how much could you eat, right? So eventually the wealth has to have, some sort of a sense to it. What you said about showing off, so with buying a synagogue that's very expensive, yes, you could call it showing off, but you could also say, you know what, I designate this money for the community, for the house, for everyone, for people to enjoy. You make furniture. If you sit on a $200 chair, on $2,000 chair, would you feel the difference? I don't know if I would. Perhaps. Okay. Would you feel the difference? So everything has to have, not exaggerating. Everything has to have some limits, some borders. But in general, it's a very complicated relationship because it's very individual. For you, this would look like waste. For other people, this would look like, lifestyle. And of course, something everyone can judge that are waste. Something everyone can admit that this is improper, inadequate. This is not what it's supposed to be. But most things are somewhere on the spectrum, on the gray zone. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it okay?
Okay, then if I buy Maserati, that's going to even more ugly car. Put the shopping bag in.
Ferrari.
Yeah, something like that. And there's no use of that car other than showing off.
Right.
Chicken. But that's still showing off.
That's the.
It's not good for the community. Actually, the community hates it because they seem to make a hell of noise.
Uh-huh.
Where is that one?
So then that's what I'm saying. For some people, it's, I wouldn't say Ferrari is a necessity, but some things that you consider is waste, other people consider as necessity. And it's a very broad spectrum, right? So Torah does not say you can't do this and this and this, because for you it might be showing off, for other people it would be just the way they do things, right? People who could afford going in private jets. Is it so bad if you wait for 2 hours, you get to the airport and you check in first class, shower class, whatever it's called? Is it so bad? But you could see some people say, I can't wait. I have meetings to catch. I need to be in a few places. They get a private jet. They get a pilot, right? You have a private jet, right? Okay.
What if it is actually bad for community?
What?
What if it is actually bad for community?
So as long as a person doesn't use his wealth to harm others, you're in the gray zone. Once you use your wealth to harm others, to cause damage, and a lot of rich people do that, that's when it's already not gray. As long as there's no harm, showing off doesn't damage. Okay, you're probably bad for the environment, and too much gasoline is consumed for nothing, but as long as it's not intentionally made in a way to harm people, which unfortunately some people do, right? So then it's on the gray zone. What?
The relevant text talk about that kind of showing off. I think talk perhaps even much more, because probably the audience, scholars, about showing off with knowledge.
Showing off your wisdom. And that, by the way, we're going to touch upon. Richard said about inspiration. Showing off your wisdom tells other people. Of course, when you see someone who's really wise, they do it in a way that it's not about, oh, look at me, but what could you achieve if you study hard? If you do things right, maybe you weren't blessed like the other person is, but hard work pays off. And if someone works hard, for them, it's a breakthrough. Maybe the other people won't, and the smarter people get, the more they understand. What is it Dr. Einhorn says all the time? The more you learn, the more you know how much more you need to learn, right? The more you know, the more you realize how much more there is to know. So obviously the people who are going like that, I know this, I know that, you understand. Right. It's a constant fear that someone will do that. And obviously this person doesn't live a life of satisfaction or happiness. Here's what we look at. Commandments are written 2 times in the Torah. One in our weekly portion in the book of Exodus, and another, the repetition of that, is the book of Deuteronomy, Dvarim, in Parashat Vayetchanan, portion of Vayetchanan. Okay, so here's the Sefer HaChinuch says 3 examples about envy. First, we have the moon and the sun. Remember the story, the moon and the sun were created by God equal. But the moon said to God, it can't be that there's 2 kings in one crown. No 2 kings in 1 crown. So God says to the moon, okay, you think that you and the sun can't be, so you'll become smaller and the sun stays as it is.
And it has to work the night shift.
It has to go the night, and he has to go, and he doesn't get overpaid for. Oh, snake and man. We know the story. The snake and man. The snake was envious. The man's wife, Chava, Eve, was beautiful. The snake was envious, and that's what triggered him to do all that he did. And of course, the most famous example of envy, Cain and Abel. Cain killing his brother because Hashem had desired his offering, whereas Cain's offering was not wanted, was not welcome. So what did he do? He went and killed Abel. Oh, now your offering is great idea. Now God loves your offering, right? That's the best idea you could come up with. Wonderful. Cain, Hevel. Cain, Hevel. 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 That's the name.
They lived where?
They lived in Garden of Eden, in Gan Eden. Oh no, actually they were just outside Garden of Eden, because that's Adam was casted out after eating from the tree of knowledge. What? They were born in Gan Eden. Wait, they were born. No. In fact, the man and Eve united in Gan Eden. Well, the conception was probably in Gan Eden. Whether the birth was in Gan Eden or not, I'm not sure. The conception was in Gan Eden. No, they were. Man was formed, was made in Garden of Eden, and then he was casted out after he ate from the tree of knowledge. And God said, "Don't eat from the tree of life, otherwise you'll live forever." Right? And what would be the problem if man would live forever? The problem is that since he ate from the tree of knowledge, there was a mixture of good and bad. And if the man would live forever, that means the bad would exist, negativity would exist forever. So that's the cycle of death. We're just touching upon the cycle of death and rebirth. It is in order for the negativity to extinguish. כדי שהשליליות לא תחיה לנצח. שהחיוביות תהיה לנצח זה כן, אין לנו בעיה, אבל שהשליליות לא תחיה. And that's why God had told them, you shouldn't eat from the tree of life. We don't want the negativity that is within you to live forever. The positivity, by all means, that was the intention. God created man, he did not create death. Did you know that? There was no death. The world was not meant to go that way. He made it in order for it to sustain. It is only as a result of man's action against the snake, right, and the man, the woman, the man, that they ate from the tree, and then death had to be introduced in order for negativity not to thrive. Yes? Well, you know what? It seems like it's a question you ask. Our sages are asking. It's like you put them in a thing and you say, eat from wherever you want. Don't eat that tree. What would you do? Eat from that. Well, you would hear, right? It sounds like go try that tree. Take all the trees you want. That no. What do you hear? Why don't we get?
Can you take a question?
Sure.
Okay, in the reform,
From you always.
Reform and conservative movements, they always talk about the tree of life. Oh, we're going to Israel, buy a picture of the tree of life. The tree of life. Now we're talking about the tree of life being something that was kind of like.
No, the tree of life is the tree that gives eternal living, right? That eternal life. That's called the tree of life. Tree of knowledge gave him knowledge to discern between bad and good, right? Bad and good were there, but they were not mixed. Things that were bad, things that were good, and they were not mixed. Ever since they ate from the tree, there's no good without bad, there's no bad without good. You hear that, Rick? Even in the stinkiest situation, there's something positive. And even in the most exciting moment a person would have, marrying his wife, you have to break the cup and remember Jerusalem, remember the destruction. What is this to do now? Because there's no good without bad, there's no bad without good. Anyway, Maimonides brings us our attention. There's 2 sets of tablets, 2 sets of commandments, right? No 3. Don't tell anyone. Okay, here's the 10 Commandments, version 2, Deuteronomy 5. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor shall you desire. Here, notice there's a new word introduced. First there was covet, and here, velotit aveh. Do not desire your neighbor's house. Maimonides, these 2 prohibitions, lo tachmod velotit aveh, which means not covet, not desire, do not have the same goal. The first prohibition, lo tachmod, forbids buying someone else's belonging, whereas the second, lo titaveh, prohibits even having the feeling of desire and envy. The explanation of this passage is as follows: if one sees a fine object that belongs to his brother and allows his thoughts to gain control over him and develops a desire for it, he transgresses God's statement, exalted be he, do not desire. That's the addition, and soon we'll see why. And the second time around, there were additions. Then his love for the object will become stronger, and he will carry out a plan to acquire it, coaxing him and pushing him to sell it or to trade it for something better and more expensive. In other words, the Jewish brain would start, the wheels start turning and thinking, how would I lay my hand on this object? How would I lay my hand on something that doesn't belong to me? And this is where coveting really becomes destructive. Like you said, coveting is really a key for destruction, yes? I agree with you. I completely agree with you. This whole pawn shop thing, it's mostly it's a stressful thing. Someone puts their jewelry or their valuables because they need cash to whatever. I mean, maybe in 1 in a million cases there's really justification. Someone needs medical treatment or whatever and they can't afford. But yeah, most people, and I guess it's the same situation. I know it is in America, probably in Israel and everywhere. Most people who put their stuff in pawn shop, it is for drugs or other kind of abusive substances and other stuff that you. Yeah, there's something, right? Some suffering. There's foreclosure. There's a lot of Jewish people that are dealing with that, where they buy off stocks of people who went bankrupt. Now, this is obviously, going bankrupt is never a good thing, but this is some sort of a legitimate kind of business. Foreclosure, it's called, right? People go and they buy buyouts, right? They call it. And a lot of people actually are good at, Jews, of course, in real estate, where somebody buys a house, they can't afford the mortgage, the bank takes the house back, and the bank is really interested to liquidate it, to turn it into money. Bank doesn't need houses, scattered all over the neighborhood or the city, so they're interested. So there's a good opportunity where you could buy something under the market price, because the bank wants immediately to liquidate it, to turn it into cash, right? So the cash flow could continue. So these are perhaps, on a different one, but just a pawn shop, I agree with you. There could be vultures. It's called vultures. People.
Vultures. They pick at the homes.
Yeah.
There's a person here at the synagogue who asked me about that. What do you think about this? Where I help, I buy the foreclosure, and I sell it back to the guy. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Someone in our synagogue?
Yeah, I'll tell you his name later.
Oh, God forbid.
With,
Never mind.
I'll give you a hint. He's got 14 daughters and sisters.
Oh, goodness me. Okay. So, you're funny. Here's what Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Father. Rabbi Elazar Kappa would say, envy, lust, and honor drive a man from this world. Akin'ah, v'atava, v'akavod, motzi'im et ha'adam min ha'olam. This is Pirkei Avot. Our fathers knew exactly what it means of having envious, of being, having lust and so on. And someone who's chasing after honor, dignity, this would really turn their life into an empty vessel. Yes?
Is there a different translation for honor?
Yes, it's supposed. I think it's dignity in my translation. I don't know why.
Well, these honor people that have done good things.
Yeah, I think.
They deserve the honor they get.
Non-Jewish sources translated as envy, lust, and pride. You're asking pride, yeah, but that's non-Jewish sources. Right? I've seen it today on internet when I look.
There's the people with the fake purple hearts that get all the esteem from the community. But the real people who are in war go after them because these are frauds.
Right.
And that's maybe what this means. But then there's actually honoring a person who did something very good instead of
Correct.
doing it for others.
I think it's mostly the self-pursuit for honor, where someone really wants to be honored, someone who does everything, like you said, to get attention, to say that he's always on the spot in the limelight.
And maybe one extension of that the religion always talks about, where somebody tries to take credit for somebody else's work.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Right? They want the honor for something they didn't even do by claiming they did it.
They say, there's a saying in Hebrew, fame, right? Fame could probably be more appropriate. The saying in Hebrew, La'atzlacha avot rabim, kishalon yatom. Success has many fathers, failure is an orphan.
Yeah.
Success, of course, my idea, or my insight, of course, if I wasn't for me. Failure, I don't know what you're talking about, it was all yours. Failure is an orphan. Success, many fathers. Right? Anyways, you see, some sayings in Hebrew are not as rough as I think they are. It's always the translation that ruins it. Lost in translation. Hakapar, yeah, Hakapar. I copied it from the Chabad website. That's why I don't change. When I copy stuff from the Chabad website, I have kind of awe to change things. But when I copy from other websites, I render it as opposed to to make it more adequate to what we want to say. In any event, let's look at the Commandments 2.0. Commandments 2.0 is the second review of the Ten Commandments, and you see there's several differences between the first and the second. In Exodus, look at commandment number 4. Remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it, for in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Seems very proper, very simple, straightforward. God rested on the seventh day, we rest on the seventh day. Whereas look at Deuteronomy, the bottom part, number 4. Keep, not remember, but keep. Look at the difference. Keep the Shabbat is sanctified. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and God took you out from Egypt. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to observe the Shabbat day. What does one have to do with the other? Right? This is, why you should honor Shabbat, why you should keep Shabbat. Remember Shabbat, God rested on the seventh day, you rest too. Keep Shabbat, God took you out of Egypt, you need to listen to what he tells you. Another change, let's look at commandment number 6. honor your father and your mother in order that your days be lengthened. Again, simple, straightforward. Whereas number 6, honor your father and your mother as the Lord your God commanded you, in order that your days be lengthened, and that it may go well with you. By the way, I looked for a better translation. None of it had different, go well with you. I'm not sure what it means in English. Do you understand simple English? Go well with you? What? You should, it means in Hebrew, the Hebrew meaning, lemani tav lach, it should be good for you. That's what, but again, I don't want to change. Go well for you, does it mean be good for you? Go well with you, I'm sorry, go well with you. And the difference, 10, it came out to be 9. 10 and 10, you shall not covet, like we said, and what we second 2.0 is, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor shall you desire your neighbor's house. What is the reason for these differences?
She lives in the house.
They talk about the house and the wife quite a bit. That's a big thing, you know?
Yeah?
Is there a distinction between the house and
Oh, certainly. I mean, obviously we're talking about inanimate versus a living creature, a human being. It's a matter of perspective where a person thinks that they could achieve everything. Perhaps you could think about how you get the other person's house, but getting the other person's wife is really more extreme. But people are up to that. Unfortunately, we find that, I in Taiwan not too long ago, remember a few months ago, this somebody paid a lot of money. I told you about that, the front page of the paper.
Wait a second, that's people just lived in tents, right? This guy was
You'll be surprised. You could come up with an old used t-shirt and someone would, you could have the stinkiest thing and someone would have put their eye on it and desire it.
But I guess what I'm saying is like when we say covet your neighbor's house, what does that really mean? His wife, his kids, his sheep, his like all of his possessions and the things that come with the house, not the actual physical.
So Torah could be interpreted in several manners. One, as you said, the house as in household, everything the house includes, and the other thing is the house, the actual house, right? This is
the biggest investment.
Well, I was going to say otherwise, is they don't know where your neighbor's
yeah. Well, maybe that was just relevant at the time and tense.
They use the word sanctify in the Shabbat. Sanctify. So I thought it was like don't create. So sanctify means what? To have all the things we do. We have a kiddush, we have food, we have people. All
Yes.
the things we do, that's called sanctification.
Right. To sanctify the Shabbat, to make it holy, to turn it into a different day.
So
Not just a day on your calendar, but something of holiness. Yeah, that's it.
I noticed you study. You study on this.
What? Right. Yeah, we spoke about it when we had our class of Shabbat. What?
So I noticed that you like to read.
I do.
And also the Torah.
I do.
So you do that's part of sanctification too?
Yeah, I mean, I read the whole week as well, but I make it a point to study more on Shabbat than I do during the weekday, which is bad because I should study also in the weekday. But I will always.
Is there something though that tells us that there's 613 rules of?
Yeah.
Is there something about Shabbat that you?
I think that's included in the word sanctification. For some people, keep it, okay, we were talking about, Yonah was saying people having tents versus houses. In old times, people didn't go to Zara or Uniqlo and buy, all their wardrobes. They had one dress or one gown, basically it was a gown. And then some people were poor, you couldn't afford to have two gowns. So if you could afford, you have a gown your weekday and then your Shabbos gown, right? Which is perhaps different. Some people who couldn't afford, what they would do is, during the week, they would roll their gown upwards, so to have it so it doesn't disturb when they walk. But during Shabbat, for some reason, it was a custom in those days. They used to unroll it to appear like a royal gown, like a dress of a bride, right? Like everything is spilling around. Some people in Manhattan, they like to wear, some of the black people there wear pants that are 3 times the size of that? And, I don't know about that, but I remember working in some.
That he kind of has an idea of what's going on. You're able to do the analysis of what's going on back then.
Yeah, I mean it's so the Talmud tells us about different. So sanctification is really individual for every person. It reflects other ways. So like you said, someone could study more. Someone could have a different garment for Shabbat. Someone could have a special food that they eat only on Shabbat. It's food. It's nothing major, but they designate it for Shabbat. They say, I won't eat cookies. My kids, my children, They don't drink any soda pop during the week. Once a week, we let them have Sprite, only Sprite, not Coke. I don't know why, whatever. Once a week, so my kids will see a Sprite bottle in the fridge. They know we're keeping it for Shabbat. On Shabbat, we can drink each when it comes. So it's their subconscious where they feel that Shabbat is different. Granted, I rather they won't drink Sprite altogether because it's not healthy. But they're kids. It's okay if they don't covet. I'm not coveting your sheep.
Is there something that you do on Shabbat? Yes, obviously the Torah, but
Yeah. Something I only do on Shabbat. I need to think of it. Yeah, I have a special my long jacket that's made for Shabbat. Yeah. Okay. So here's you shall not desire. The first commandment, coveting in action, and it's universal. And the second commandment, we have an addition. It's the desire, and it's particular. Now let me tell you why. So the Midrash tells us that God, before He introduced the Torah to the Jewish people, He actually went with the Torah to all the other nations. Do you know that Midrash? Rick, did you ever hear that? God having the Torah, and He goes to all the other nations, and He tells them who is interested to get the Torah. So He goes to the nation of Edom. The nation of Edom. These are the fathers of the Europeans, the Vikings, the Germans, and Rome. And He says to them, "You'd like to have the Torah?" And they tell Him, "What's in the Torah?" And He goes over, "Thou shalt not kill, don't murder." They're like, I don't know about that. It doesn't resonate with me so well. No, thank you. Right.
I think what you should refer to is something, it's a wonder.
Oh yeah, it's what we do for a living, right? Well, what do you mean, no? What do you mean, thou shalt? Are you serious? Get out of here! No way. So He goes to the Arabs, right? That's what the Midrash says. He goes to the Arabs. What's in it? Don't steal. Come on. What do you mean? Are you kidding? What do you mean not steal? Forget it. It's not going to work, right? He goes to this, to that, right? He says to the people, you keep the laws of family purity, you do this. Everyone has something to say. And then he went to the joke says, he goes to the Jewish person, says, "Do you want the Torah? How much is it? It's free, give me 2, right? 2 tablets a day, give me 2. But really, the Midrash says that God introduced the Torah to all the nations, and none of them wanted, everyone had issues with that. The only ones who said, yes, we will do and we will hear, right? It's the Jewish people will do. First they said yes, and then they said, let's hear what you have to say. First they committed to it. So this is in light of that. The first commandments that were introduced, the 10 commandments, granted they were given to the Jewish people, but they had more a universal message. Look at, I'll go back to where we were. Remember the Shabbos day to sanctify. This is something that Gentiles could also come to terms with. And what is the reason? For He rested on the 7th day. Whereas the second time that the commandments were introduced, that was deep into us being the Jewish people, designated as the Jewish people, God doesn't say remember. It's not about remembering. It's about keeping. It's about action. What is the reason? Not only because God rested on the 7th day, which is something that non-Jews could also identify with. It is because God took us out of Egypt. Us, the Jewish people. This is very particular. The same thing also. The first time He says, honor your parents. Why? This is good for you. You honor your days will be lengthened. The second time, it was not only your days will be lengthened, it will go well with you, meaning in this world, the actual practicality of things will look differently because you are Jewish. Correct. And we are living in a country, thank God, which we see that, right? The honor for the elders in this country, in this place, in this society, is something to admire, really. And we can see that, how people get up at their seats and, how they always go to their parents, right? And all the holidays. We just came back from Chinese New Year, everybody. It's a beautiful thing to see. Unfortunately, the Western societies don't adapt to it as beautiful as it is here, right? So we do admire, we do appreciate, right? And also with coveting, so for the global public, the global population not to covet, for the Jewish people, it is not only not to covet, but also not to desire. And here are the 3-phase system. Let me introduce it to you. How to do it practically. How to not covet and how to make it work in our lives. What does the Torah want from us? What is the 10th commandment telling us? So first, stage 1, comparison, no. Inspiration, yes. You see something someone else has. Instead of starting to compare why he has that and I don't have that, why do I do this and he does, you don't, what you do like Richard does, you get inspired. You get inspired. You say, if the other person capable of doing that, maybe I'm not as talented, as gifted, as knowledgeable, as smart and so on, but still, if he managed to accomplish something, I'm inspired by it. I want to accomplish that too. I want to get there, I want to try. Stage 2, very, very logical. I might lack what the other has, but the other lack what I have. Right? So, this means that, yes, the difference, the prerequisite, the conditions, the preterms are different. Yes, but it's not only negative, 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 and positive, positive, right? The grass is not always green. Perhaps that piece of grass is green, but maybe something else is not. Right? Different talents, different set of skills, different character, completely. So yes, he might have something you can't deny it. You can't just say, okay, forget it. He doesn't have any. No, he might have some, but I have something that he doesn't have. And I'm going to utilize it. And the stage 3 is what I'll elaborate in a minute, the second thought rule. What is the second thought rule and how this is going to help us accomplish life of success and how we could really adhere to what God wants us to, which is not to covet in the best possible way. So let's look at the stage 1, right? Comparison, no. Inspiration, yes. Let's look at an example from the Torah. Here is what we have in Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she had borne Jacob no children, she became envious at her sister. Envious. Rachel, envious. Righteous, pious. Rashi said, she envied her sister. She envied her good deeds. She said, if she had been more righteous than I, she would not have, right? If she had not been more righteous than I, she would not have merited children. Rachel has no children. Leah, her sister, has children. Rachel is envious at her sister, but not to an extent that she's pulling her head, what am I going to do? She says, well, you know what? Why is she successful? Maybe she's doing something I'm not doing. Maybe she's more righteous than me. Maybe she's better than me. I should get better, and I will have kids. What happens? She has kids. Right after this, she has kids. Talmud Bava Batra tells us, Ezra instituted an ordinance for the Jewish people requiring that they establish one teacher alongside another teacher. If a bushiban opens in front of a bushiban, okay, to raise the standard of teaching. The Gemara challenges, and let us be concerned lest the teachers will thereby come to negligent. Rav Yosef said to the sage who raised the question, jealousy amongst teacher increases wisdom. Okay? Kin'at sofrim tarbe chokhmah. Jealousy among teachers increases wisdom. Well, it's not about being ethical or non-ethical. It's about you think that you can do it better. Go ahead, do it better. Who is going to gain? Who is going to gain? The kids or the students. You think...
They'd be ethical because they have the honest work ethic.
Well, you can have honest work ethic, but it's not...
I'm saying this would work, but without it.
Obviously, everything could be exploited. Trust me, this could be exploited as well. I mean, everything, every little detail in every plan could be exploited. If someone is not honest about it and has different ideas, everything could be, every situation. In any event, those who gain are the students. You think you could teach better than me? Go ahead and do it. Who is going to gain? Kin'at sofrim tarbe chokhmah. The jealousy among teacher increases wisdom because everyone is trying harder. Because the comment is made in the right place, in an ethical way. Doing all kinds of different things that are, right.
You would say the kids just don't care about Japan. They do compete with each other.
So,
Kids are
right. So they compete with each other. So what does that jealousy make? What does it do? It actually makes you go out of your convenience zone, make you go out of your standard, and trying to think, like we say, think outside the box and try to innovate. Right? You don't imitate, you innovate. You try to think, how am I going to? So this jealousy is actually not negative. It's a positive jealousy because it helps you find within yourself, not harming the other, not doing anything against other people, but trying to find within yourself how you could be better and actually making it better.
There have been times in history where Jews have done very well. They've always wanted to do well. They didn't have any jealous about anybody else. They did very well. Others became jealous of them and tried to hurt them, so they literally hurt them badly.
Oh, yeah, they didn't try. They did.
They did. So that,
Yeah.
so instead of Talmud talks about that, like, okay, don't be such a smarty pants. Be smarty pants enough. Don't be too smarty pants.
You know, like Rick was saying.
The rabbi in Spain that which religion is more valid, and he won the debate, and they gave him like 2 days to leave the country.
Right.
Against the priest, and the rabbi won, and they just said,
What would you expect?
Smarty pants thing. They said, yeah, he won, but he's going to disappear.
So here's the story with the Rebbe Maharash. The Rebbe Maharash,
Is that after Rebbe?
this is the Rebbe Rashab. This is the fifth Rebbe of Chabad. So the Rebbe Rashab had a brother whose name was Zalman Aaron. Zalman Aaron. 2 names, okay? This is the Rebbe Rashab. He has a brother, 2 kids. The younger brother was taller than the older brother. Now the older brother didn't like it, that his younger brother is actually taller. So when they go together, they always think the taller one is the older brother. And why don't you call your younger brother? And he said, no, I'm not the younger brother. I'm the older brother. It's just that I so happen. So,
So the younger brother gets all the girls.
so the
They were high
so
heels, right?
so the younger brother says to the older brother, I want to play with you something. And he digs a hole in the ground. And he says to him, no, not a very tall. This is, would you go in here for a second for me? And he goes in there, and the younger brother is all happy, because now he's actually taller than the older brother. I mean, the older brother says, I'm taller. And then the father sees that, the father or the mother, it's in Rivka, the name. So she says, she sees what happened. Of course, it was just a game. They were playing in their backyard. But she says to her son, she says, I'll tell you something. If you want to be taller, climb on a chair. Don't put the other into a pit. Okay? If you want to be taller than someone, your choice is to climb on the chair. You don't wait until this guy goes under and then you say, oh, now I'm finally taller. You really want to be taller? Get a chair and climb on it. Try to exercise yourself higher and not try to lower the other. And here's what the Rebbe writes to someone who said that he suffers from jealousy. And the Rebbe writes to him in response to your letter, in which you write about being jealous at your friends for succeeding in their studies, you can look at the jealousy as a positive one, as it may trigger you to try harder, and this would surely increase your result. Of course, the Rebbe writes to him, yes, you have a problem with jealousy. It's not a problem. Actually, this is a way for you to get better. It's a way for you. So jealousy, in its root, could also be used for good things, because you could use it as how you can make it better on yourself. If you have no one to compare to, you think you're on the top, right? If you are on the top, there's nowhere to go but down, right? If you are feeling like there's nothing, you're saying something, Rick? So basically what happens is, right? So this is the first stage. We said comparison, no. Inspiration, yes. You don't compare yourself to others just for the sake of comparison, but you are getting inspired by others, saying if they could make it so far, right? So I'm not going to think how to put them in a pit and make myself higher than them. No, I'll climb on a chair and I'll find within myself the strength, the energy, and the conviction to make it better and to be better. You saying something?
2 things that you just hit on that second one. The one comparison where you kind of rationally go, how can I be as good as they are? It's not jealousy. But when somebody's obsessed with their emotion and they're angry that that person is more successful in some way, that's jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have the word comparison.
I see.
Wow, how did they do this? What do I need to do to be that good? That's not jealousy. That's
You're saying
rational mind.
without the devastating effects of that comparison doesn't lead you, you're saying, to jealousy. You can't.
Yeah, because that's a whole different
I hear you.
way, so it could be either one.
Uh-huh.
The other thing you mentioned is like something I've mentioned before that unfortunately we see too often is like personality disorders.
Oh, boy.
Narcissistic personality disorder. They want what the other one has. They want the attention, but they don't want to work for it.
Mhm.
And they feel bad that they don't have that, and that's the absolute extreme of this. I mean, and they are very destructive.
Uh-huh.
Also, a lot of people have the tools. There are some people who are jealous. They don't know how to understand it, how to envy it, in a positive way.
Yeah, they can take the cables of computers. I told them both they can have. Okay. So this is the first stage, okay? First stage, we're saying comparison or negative comparison. Inspiration is really what we're looking for. The second stage we say, yeah, perhaps this person has something I don't have. You acknowledge it is true. It is not in your imagination, but I might have something the other person does not have. Okay, so how do you cope with that it's not destructive? How could you get to a state where you know what the other person has, you will never have, just because you won't have? What are you going to do with that? So here, the Rebbe brings a beautiful idea, and he says, really, you are who you are, and you are unique just because of that. Don't try to resemble to someone else. You will never be someone else. You will be yourself. Right? In Hebrew we say, Tiyeh ata, kol hashar tafus. You should be yourself, because everything else is taken. All the other seats are taken. Only your seat is left, because it's for you. It's meant for you. And here the Rebbe likes to, he said in Sichot Kodesh 1981, he said, God Almighty had created the world in such a way that each person looks different. The reason for that is that each person has a unique task to accomplish in this world. This world is individual, and each of us is indispensable for the completion of the world's goal. Don't concentrate on the other person. Think about yourself. You are not the other person. They look different. How do you know? They look different. Why can't God make everybody look the same, right? Everybody's talking about the fingerprints now in the airport. You don't have same fingerprints. Everyone has different, even people who look similar to each other, they're not actually identical. Even identical twins are not identical, clearly not in their fingerprints. But even, what is this for? It teaches us that just like we look different, we think different, we act different. And this is the beauty. This is how the world is brought into completion. The fact that we are different means that everyone has a different set of skills. Like Rick was saying, everyone has different challenges and everyone has a different role. That is what we need to concentrate, not always to think what the other person is doing, because I'm not the other person. The other person is the other person, and I'm myself. This is how the natural and healthy way to deal with it. Right? This is how you really look at it. You look at yourself, you say, there's something special about me. That's not getting ahead of yourself. It's not being arrogant. It's just saying, well, I don't look like you, and I don't think like you, but that's the beauty of it. I'll never be you, and you'll never be me. I should be myself, and you should be yourself.
You know, wrong is, okay, so for example, if I were you, then who would be you?
Oh. Nice.
If you were around, who would you be, and then who would be you?
Who would be me? Okay. I don't want that.
A lot of people always say, why can't I be like you? Well, if you were like me, then who would be like you? We're all cousins, we're all look alike, actually.
We a little look alike, I don't know.
Big ears, big noses, bad teeth.
I had a dentist appointment yesterday.
Nice
Thank you. I didn't go. No, I didn't go.
The reason we have braces, why? We have bad teeth.
Not all Jews have bad teeth. You're such an anti-Semite. I can't believe you. Okay, so here's a source for when Korach, you remember the story of Korach? Korach was the one who tried to challenge Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and he said to him, how come you're the leader and your brother is the high priest Aaron, and it's all about you? And Moses said, it's not about myself. It's not about myself. God had appointed me. God had asked me. Remember the story? God came in the burning bush and he said, you should lead my... Moses said, I wouldn't give up that. I said there, I'm not willing to go for it. It's not about me. It's about God wanting me to do it. And the same with Aaron, my brother. God had appointed him and made him, designated him as a Kohen. It's not about our choices. It's God's choice. But first he says to them, and that's his answer to them. He said, Boker v'yodah Hashem et asher lo. Let's look at a quote. He said to them, he spoke to Korach and all the company saying, in the morning the Lord will make known who is his and who is holy. He says to Korach, you want to be the high priest? Let's wait till the morning. Why wait till the morning? Why make the whole night everybody's fighting and arguing? Why not solve it right here and right now? But Moses was telling them something about morning. Here's the Rebbe explains. Just like there are day and night, with each one fulfills its role that is set for him, completion is for him. So too with regards to the role of every individual, each one has his or her which is adequate. Oh, she says her. Oh, for role, I forgot the word role. Which is adequate to his or her special character and set of skills. So, again, it's how we see from our sources. It's not about comparing yourself to other people. It's about looking at yourself and saying the fact I am different really means the whole world. Because if we were the same, then one of us would be redundant, right? Redundancy, we spoke about it. If we were exactly the same, right, then one of us would probably be redundant. which of course would be you. Of course.
You know,
I was waiting for that.
you know Jed from Israel, he's watching us.
Who's? Ah, you did, yeah.
He did,
Oh yeah, he
he's
watches
watching-
every week. He told me he watches it.
He looked at the camera and said
Hello.
hello.
I said. So, okay, stage 1 is no comparison, inspiration. Stage 2 is remember the other person is different, but that's what makes it beautiful. You're different as well. Stage 3 is the second thought rule. What is the second thought rule? It is, in fact, that we cannot control our heart completely. The heart has, desires, and the heart has all kinds of. So the heart sends signals to the brain. But what we could do is hold it at the second thought. The first thought we have no control of. The second thought, the time you digest and you think about it, is really when you do have the control. Here's what the Rebbe explains. Do not covet does not talk to the heart. The heart, I'm sorry, there's a lot of typos today. Yeah, heart will continue to send signals of envy to the brain no matter what. This instruction is directed to the head. Our brain can stop the negative thoughts and replace them with positive ones. We can control the second thought. The first thought, not necessarily. Right? It's, you know the thing when they have the second look? Arthur, you know what it is when you see someone you thought you do like this and then you do again, you know what the second look, right? No, it's not deja vu. Yeah, you look once and then double take it's called? Oh, I didn't know.
Could also mean that's
No, it's like, what is he doing here? It's like this. Isn't he dead? Something like that. Anyway. So the heart is taking down. Right, it's bonding, it's binding. The heart tries to pull the brain down to its level, and the brain tries to elevate the heart. Right, it's the constant battle between the two. Right, it's always so. The heart sends signals to the brain. You can't stop it. You can't do anything about it. It will work. Whether you like it or not. Understand and accept it. But what you could have control is the second thought. It's not that first signal, not the initial one. It is the thought that you have invested in it. That's when you could stop it. And here's what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. Oh, here. So just to symbolize, just to summarize what we have. This is the last slide. No, second to last slide. I need to go upstairs and say goodbye to my guests that are leaving in a minute. So the first thing is getting inspired by others. Then develop awareness to your individual task and distract yourself from negative thoughts. Okay, this is the 3 stages. Okay, getting inspired, good. Understanding that I'm different. I'm sorry, and therefore have an individual task. I'm okay. and the third is distract negative thoughts just before you take this. Tanya chapter 12, because the brain rules over the heart by virtue of its innately created nature. For this is how man is created from birth, that each person may, with the willpower of his brain, restrain himself and control the drive of lust that is in his heart, preventing his heart's desire from expressing themselves in action, word, or thought, and divert his attention altogether from the craving of his heart toward the completely opposite direction, particularly in the direction of holiness. Someone says to you, I can't do that, you tell them, wrong. It is a natural thing. Everyone has the ability for the mind to control their heart. We say mind control the heart. The heart has desires, has lust, has all kinds of ideas. The brain can control it. I'm coming to say goodbye. Okay, yeah, question.
If someone earned the money, like a stock market, like deal copy game, cheating, we covered that. That's
If someone earns the money,
kind of illegally, kind of shady, kind of not exactly fair.
Uh-huh.
We covered that.
well,
Okay, forget that.
I mean, obviously you shouldn't covet their behavior.
Did you read Tanya?
Did I read Tanya?
Yeah.
I do it every day.
Okay, so do you know who wrote Tanya?
I believe it was the Alter Rebbe.
Do you know the Alter Rebbe's name?
Moshe Pinchas.
Wait, I don't know.
That's my teacher's great friend.
No, it's Ner Zalman. I was just trying to.
You said
No.
But you mentioned my teacher's great, who
Oh.
he was named after.
Do you know
It's
what
over
the
there?
Rabbi from Shenzhen's name is?
You know what it says here?
No.
What?
See you next week. Same time, same place.
Are we gonna see you next week or not? Okay, I'm going to say goodbye to my guests.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, so Schneider from Shenzhen's going to USA. I gotta hug him goodbye. Okay, hold on a minute. Don't go away. Bye bye. No hugging? No kissing. No kissing.
Not kissing.
Is it okay to shake hands?
What?
This is not Italy.
Wait a second. Wait. I'm talking to the people.
Talk to
in
them.
TV land.
Okay.
Are they still there?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Keep in touch.
See you.
Right when you find
Talk
work.
when you will be in the US.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
I'll text you or something.
Wonderful community.
Okay, I'll text you. Have a safe flight, okay? Okay, so everybody here is going to travel next week, including me. Okay, that's it. Goodbye. So long. Good Chavez. It's only Tuesday. Shavuot. Now we're talking business. All right.
So you're flying tomorrow?
Yeah.
Happy flight.
I want to go. I'm bored. Rock is in the USA, but my wife's in Vietnam.
What's Veronica? I can see her as well.
She's okay.
She's, where is she now?
She's in Orange County, California, to Disneyland. Oh, you know, we've been to Disneyland, haven't
I mean, not exactly, but I
you?
didn't know.
It's called Chapman
I
University.
have been across the street. Yes, that's not
What is
true.
it, a convention center? Or
Exactly,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a convention
And,
center across the street.
so you could say he was near Disneyland.
Across the street,
didn't want him to go there.
there is a convention
So there
center
was-
across the corner, southwest of Disneyland. I've been there a few times.
She's our
And
senior.
Chapman College?
Yeah,
Yes,
she's
of
our
course. Chapman University, of course. It's
Yeah, she's gonna really love it. She's very happy. She goes to sleep every night at 1 o'clock in the morning. She goes to the library. She loves the library. Sit there until 1 morning and just sleep until like 9.
What is she studying now?
She wants to be in environmental sciences. I want to say about the kids. Environmental science. What about church? Environmental sciences and
So you're going to back to see her in a few days?
I'm gonna see her. Yeah, she's gonna come down to La Jolla, San Diego.
And oh yeah, we just a few hours by train.
Well, actually, the train is not right.
No, the train is not that. Oh,
Nice.
even then, it's not many hours
I'll go
by
pick her
train.
up.
What's the name of the place that's kind of a little wild where you go hiking or part of La Jolla? I was there before.
Torrey Pines, maybe?
Yes, very beautiful place.
How an acquaintances living in Estonia just come to Dubai.
I'll think about the kids. What's just there?
I can write down the book titles for you.
Do that. Okay, let's see. And I purchased this absolutely these days that I need to wash hands frequently.
Oh.
If I wash my hands at the need required by the health emergency, it will break. My hand, my skin is so dry that it can break.
So it's called Vaseline something, Vaseline
It's
defensive.
pretty much specifically the one with aloe vera. That's the one that worked better. The other ones,
Other
the
ones
one,
are trying to work.
the one that worked worse is the one with aloe.
Okay, I'll remember it.
There are things that work, but this has the advantage it contains only things to make the skin smooth. It does, you can read the composition, it's just things to make the skin, to keep the skin humid and not dry. There are other things that contain drugs that can be good for you, but isn't here. For instance, there are some containing corticoids.
No good.
No good and bad, as usual with
Good
drug
only temporarily used.
I would say it has its indication. It's there for a reason in the list of medicines, base medicines. So this is a cosmetic. Going for using cortisone, that's already drugs.
Yeah, sure.
It's to be taken as seriously as all drugs that has its side effects.
Oh, come on.